So for this pattern, I'm using a 4mm barbant. If you want to use a different size, follow along with the measurements in the video. I have 400 grams here and I used about 90% of it. I used a 6mm hook for this yarn. I have a tape measurer, scissors and a darning needle. You will also need some clasps and hooks for the handles. Now to get started with our project, we're going to start with a very long tail before we make our slip knot. This tail we'll use at the end for our seaming. So we're going to make a slip knot and chain enough that reaches 16 inches or 42 centimeters. For me, with this 4mm barbant and a 6mm hook, it is 40 chains. It might be different for you, so using the measurements, create your chain. Okay, so I've made my chain of 40. Let's just check the measurement of that. Okay, so we have 16 inches, 16.5 inches, which is about 42 centimeters. So once we have that, we can get started with row 1. So for this project, we'll be working into the back loops of our stitches. So for the chain, going into the second chain from a hook, into that back loop, we're going to make a single crochet. And continue to do single crochets in the back loops of the chain until the end of the row. So that's row 1 completed. Let's get started on row 2, which is going to be a decrease round. So first of all, we will chain 1 and turn. And then to make a decrease, rather than going into the first stitch of the row, we're going to go into the second stitch, into the back loop only. So enter your hook into the back loop of the stitch, pull up your yarn, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops on your hook. And then continue to back loop single crochet until you have just 2 stitches left, and I'll meet you there. Now with just 2 stitches left, I can make my decrease. So to make your decrease, you're going to enter your hook into the back loop of the first stitch, pull up a loop, and then again enter your hook into the second stitch, pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. And you've made your decrease. So for the next row, we're going to do the same thing, chain 1, turn your work, and skipping that very first stitch, we're going to go into the second stitch with a back loop single crochet. And then continue to single crochet all the way to the end of the row until you have just 2 stitches remaining. Here I am at the end of the row again, so I'm going to do another single crochet decrease. Now you're going to continue this repeat pattern of decreasing at the beginning and end of each row until you've reached a height of about 4 inches. I'll see you there. So I've completed my rows of decrease, and let's take a quick measurement. I have 4 inches in height, roughly the same as about 10 centimeters. For the next part of this pattern, I'll be making rows of single crochet back loop only with no decrease until it reaches around 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. I'll meet you there when you're done. So as you can see, I've made my 4 rows of back loop only single crochet with no decreases, and that measures to be around 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. What I'm going to do next is rows of increases to match what we've done on the other side. So if I made 10 rows of decrease, I'm also going to do 10 rows of increase. So let's get started. Chain 1 and turn your work. And in that very first stitch, we're going to put 2 back loop single crochets. So that's 1, and then into that same stitch another back loop single crochet, and that's our increase. Then continue along the row making back loop single crochets as usual until you just have 1 stitch remaining. So I'm here at that last stitch of the row, and I'm going to increase again by putting 2 back loop single crochets in that stitch. And you're basically going to repeat this pattern until you've done the same amount of rows that you did at the beginning. So we increase again and then single crochet until there's 1 stitch left, increase again. So if on mine I did 10 rows of decrease, so I'm going to do 10 rows of increase. I'll see you when you're done. So now I've completed my 10 rows of increase. Remember, it may be different for you, and it measures to be about 9 inches. So fold your bag over as shown in the video, and make sure the piece that's inside is the part you want to be facing on the outside. Now to seam together this bag, we're going to take the long tail that we left, and we're going to close this up with slip stitches, but we're going to go through the back loop of the stitch that's closest to us. So if you see here, put my hook into the back loop and then into the front loop of the piece that's farthest away from me. Once I manage to get the hook in there, I'll make a slip stitch. And this is how we'll close up the sides of the bag. So I'll show you how I do that again. So put our hook into the back loop and then the front loop on the opposite side, pull through and pull through again to make a slip stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way to the end on both sides of your bag. So now you've seamed both sides of your bag, we are going to turn it inside out. Make sure you push out the corners of that bag when you turn it inside out. Next we're going to work on the edging to go around the top of the bag. So I'm going to attach a new piece of yarn right in where I made the seam, and I'll just attach that with a knot. So now I'm going to pull up a loop, chain one, and put a single crochet back into that same stitch. And then I'm going to put a single crochet at the top of each row. So look for your stitches and put one single crochet in the top of each row, all the way around the bag. When you get to the end of the row, slip stitch into the first single crochet and cut your yarn. So now it's time to make the straps using these metal rings, and I'm going to attach my yarn into the ring using a single crochet. Then I'm going to make a chain that measures around 13 inches or 33 centimeters. For me and the yarn I'm using, it's approximately 35 chains. So I've completed the chain. Let's check the measurements. I wanted, so 33 centimeters, around 13 inches, great. Now I'm going to attach this chain to the other metal hook, and I'll do that by making a slip stitch. Now I'm going to turn the chain, and going into the back loops only, I'm going to make slip stitches all the way to the end of the chain. Once I get to the opposite side, I'll join with a slip stitch, turn my work, and repeat this pattern for another 3 rows. Now I've made my 4 rows of slip stitch, I'm going to attach the metal rings where the seam is of the bag, just right here, so it goes through the seam. And there we have it, the bag's complete. All you need to do now is add in your metal clasps and you're complete. Thanks for watching.